Well, environmental activists have launched a campaign in Cape Town against what they call corporate bullying. They're lobbying for legislation against the practice dubbed SLAPP Suits. Those are lawsuits brought by big corporates aimed at silencing critics by burdening them with legal costs. Now, reporter Vanessa Poonah is outside court, and let's cross to her live to get an update. Vanessa, thank you very much indeed for your time. SLAPP Suits, did I pronounce that right? Just tell us more about this.
Blaine, yes, good morning to you. You indeed pronounced it correctly. SLAPP Suits is the term, and of course it's used to describe litigation brought against people or groups to effectively silence them from raising criticism against a company or companies, etc. And in this case, it happens to be a mining company that has operations here along the Cape West Coast. But before we go into the merits of the defamation case brought against a few of the activists, I'm joined now by Leanne Govan-Sammy. She's from the Centre for Environmental Rights, just to explain to us exactly what their campaign is about. Leanne, a very warm good morning to you. I see behind us a number of placards against the wall here at the Cape High Court. Before we go into the matter being heard today, explain to us exactly what this campaign is all about. We understand that it is wide-reaching. It affects any sort of criticism, and you said to us when you launched this campaign yesterday that it essentially deals with freedom of expression, freedom of speech. Explain to us what exactly this campaign will entail, also lobbying government to protect the rights of civil society.
Thanks, Vanessa. The name of the campaign is Asina Layuko, and it means we do not fear. And civil society is united against corporate bullying. And this is the basis of the campaign is really about bringing civil society together. You know, whether environmental activists or other activists that are working in far-flung areas of the country, we're seeing a trend of corporations intimidating activists through violence, intimidation, harassment. And we're saying that we as civil society won't stand for this kind of intimidation and harassment, and that is why we launched this campaign. So it's about uniting people, it's about sending a strong message, particularly to foreign companies, like the company that's involved in the court case today, an Australian mining company, that if you come to South Africa, if you want to mine here and extract our resources, you need to conform with constitutional values and obey the obligations that you have in terms of the laws of this country, including environmental laws.
Now, today we are expected to go into court for an interlocutory hearing, if I'm saying that term correctly. And basically, if you can just explain to us, I understand that it's a number of activists who have been slapped with defamation suit. They are now asking for documents. Can you give us some history to this particular matter? Because it does form part of the broader defamation suit, if I'm correct.
Absolutely. So there are 3 defamation matters or SLAPP suits that have been brought by MRC, Mineral Resources Commodities, against lawyers, other activists and a social worker. This is the first of the matters to go to court. And it's a preliminary hearing. It's a fight over documents that those people who are being sued are saying are necessary in order to prepare for their defense in this matter. So this is a preliminary hearing. You know, these defendants have, during a UCT summer school a kind of lecture, made certain comments about this company, about its non-compliance with environmental laws and obligations. And we are saying, please provide us with those documents that show that you are in fact in compliance. So that will be heard in court today, and shortly there will be a gathering of a number of people from organizations like Right to Know, the Centre for Environmental Rights, and people from the West Coast who are directly affected by this mining company, who will gather outside this court in order to show solidarity and support for those that are being sued today.
Leanne, if I understand correctly, this mining company in question has an operation near Lutzville on the Cape West Coast, about 400 kilometers or so from Cape Town. And if I understand correctly, the company has been slapped with a fine of over R1 million recently. Can you explain to us exactly what the issue is with this company's operations, and also why they would have been fined? Because I understand that the Mineral Resources Minister earlier this year paid a visit to its operations operations on the West Coast?
Yes, so they have essentially paid a fine, and this relates to non-compliance with certain environmental permits that they obtained, and they have also applied for an extension of their existing mining right, as well as for prospecting rights in the area. Now, you're looking at an area that surrounds their current mining operation in Lutzville. This is about 10 beaches to the north of their current operation, as well as a farm, as well as rights to mine near the Olifants River, which is south of the operations. And we've said to the minister previously, look, here you have a company that has lodged SLAPP suits against lawyers, environmental activists who are doing critical work, and have also shown through a history of non-compliance that they cannot really comply with our environmental laws. Do you want a company like this operating in the Western Cape, operating in critical biodiversity areas? And remember, Vanessa, this is the same company that seeks to operate in Kolobeni, in the Eastern Cape, where the communities there have said, no, we do not want mining, because in as much as mining, says it brings development, at the end of the day, it destroys our heritage, it destroys our land.
So part of your campaign, Leanne, is obviously going to be lobbying government for legislation to protect civil society activists, etc., from being sued by companies like this. Am I correct? And in terms of that measure, how will you go about doing this?
Look, part of the campaign involves influencing key decision makers, which includes the Department of Mineral Resources, the minister, as well as going to Parliament and saying, look, here through this case, we have identified a gap in respect of how companies are able to sue environmental activists, use their power and money in order to intimidate, and we would like anti-SLAPP legislation to be introduced. And also through the very case that is going to be run over the next couple of months, years possibly, we hope that there would be a positive statement in the court case that acknowledges the existence of the SLAPP suits and the trend, and make law through that process as well.
Thank you very much. Of course, Leanne Govan-Sammy there from the Centre for Environmental Rights, just explaining, Blaine, exactly what their campaign is about, and also then talking about the concept of SLAPP suits, which is litigation often used by big companies to silence critics in matters of, like in this case, a mining company, which the environmental activists are saying are flouting environmental laws. We understand that there has been an issue regarding the collapse of a cliff at their operations on the West Coast. Of course, activists are saying that this is due to their operations. The company has been quoted as saying this, of course, due to natural erosion, etc. But an interesting case to watch out for, Blaine, which could set the scene in the coming months and years in terms of how environmental activists and civil society are then allowed to raise their concerns without fear of being slapped with multi-million rand lawsuits, and also then for them to be able to raise their concerns without their freedom of expression and freedom of speech being infringed here in South Africa.
Yeah, so activists, I guess, collectively lobbying government to protect their rights to freedom of speech. What are you seeing behind you, Vanessa, in terms of the activists that have gathered there? Are we expecting more to come through during the course of today?
Yes, indeed, Blaine. I'll step out of shot for a short moment. You'll see behind me a number of activists have already gathered here at the court. Of course, to my far right at the moment, that seems to be a group of activists from the West Coast. Of course, the mining operation in question is at Lutzville, and it's a mineral company mining for minerals in the sand dunes along the West Coast. And this, of course, a few of the members of that community, we understand that one of these activists as well also faces a lawsuit for defamation brought by the company in question. And then, of course, against the pillars at the High Court here, you'll see quite a number of their banners and posters that seeks to promote the campaign itself called Sina Luyiko. It's basically saying that all civil society organizations, be they part of the environmental call a lobby, a core, or be they in a part of just broader civil society as a whole, coming together under this umbrella, seeking then for government to say no, we will not allow critical voices to be silenced by the use of big corporations which seek to do this allegedly because they have deep pockets, they have lots of money, and they can bring lawsuits that carry on for years, of course, stripping then essentially the voices of all those who are opposed to the operations or to alleged flouting of environmental laws. And this campaign is seeking to do exactly that.
No doubt it's an important story, and Vanessa, no doubt you will keep us up to date with regards to the latest from there. Thank you very much indeed for your reporting, Vanessa Poonah, live for us in Cape Town.